Oh,
Oh,
it's all right. I've just been talking about waffling anyway. No, I haven't.
Is it native or is it
yeah, so
planted,
it's
planted here?
No, this one just popped up. So generally you'll find there'll be seed in soil or it comes in from various ways. This is actually from, I think, Western Australia. It's not one that we really want here, so we'll probably fast track its life cycle.
how did it get to be here from Western Australia?
Don't know. They don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it came in as a
birds or something.
Yeah, it might have
That's
come.
a long way for birds to fly.
People brought the
It'd
birds.
be like,
and the birds
like
brought
me
the
walking
seeds.
over there.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, don't know. It might have, it might have been grown as a garden plant at some stage, and it's kind of escaped. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
But it's actually performing a really important function. So and out there there's wattles as well. You can, I don't know, there's lots and lots of wattle trees in amongst and bushes in amongst that mix, and it's these pioneer plants or nitrogen fixers or sometimes they call them nursery plants are an important part of your ecosystem. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's kind of interesting. So that's yeah.
So how do you leave this like this for a while, or can you plant straight into it? Or
Yeah, ideally it'll get planted. Yeah, it'll get planted into. But I think whatever planting mix you might do, if you're thinking about using natives in a garden to provide habitat, throw some wattles into the mix. And there's some other ones as well, different types of peas and different other. Yeah, it's not just wattles, but plants that fix nitrogen in there for the blend. And mulch, definitely mulch, and then put some more mulch. Now, if we look on this side of the path, what's different?
The plants have been planned to be put there rather than on the plants.
Yeah. So this one's actually been planted. That's waiting to be planted.
Yeah.
What do you notice about plants that are in here? Do you recognise any of them?
Native? Oh, grass, lavender.
Yeah. So this one's Lamandra.
Yeah.
And that little one in front of Susan is also a Lamandra, just a different type. So they're like our grassy plants. Does anyone know what this guy is? Yeah. Yellow buttons is good, is enough. So yellow buttons, and how does that grow? And what about that one next to Susan?
Brown
Yeah.
And the
Big
Yeah,
face.
pig face. So we got some ground covers, we got some grasses. There's the blue flowering one back there. I don't know if you can see it from where you guys are. It's that little blue one. That's a scavola. That's another ground cover. So we've got a mixture of ground covers, grasses. What's this guy? Recognise that one?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, native. They call it native rosemary or West Stringer. It's a shrub. It's a shrub that will grow kind of.
West Stringer?
Yeah, so we're trying to replicate that layering that we see in the natural forest. The wattle. It used to be called longifolia. I don't know. But possibly a tea tree. Yeah, so
Native geraniums.
Yeah, native geraniums that just pop up all over the place. Something else. So we're trying to incorporate diversity and layering, and then you move up into the taller plants like this beautiful Banksia here, which is our kind of tree. Actually, that's a wattle. That's another wattle of some sort. So it's only fairly recently planted, maybe within the last year for sure. It's still got some growing to do, but you get the idea of we're trying to do. Some Dianella down there, the strappy plant. That'll kind of, that spreads. Yeah, I guess the little blueberries that you can eat. It's like someone's been digging. Yeah, we're aiming for 100% cover and lots of different layers. What sort of things are we trying to attract?
Insects.
Yeah, insects.
Birds.
Birds, some animals,
Lizards.
some lizards. Yeah. What else?
People to admire it.
People to admire it.
Some bees.
Bees, yeah. Yeah, there's thousands of different species of native bees that might come and spend time in the garden. Frogs are something. We've got some spiders here. Some lizards. Yeah, we've got a spider. So, and what are all those critters doing?
Creating an ecosystem.
I love it. Yeah, biodiversity. And what about their daily life? What are they kind of doing?
Eating
Control each other.
eating plants.
Yeah, so some of them are eating plants. So
Pest management, maybe?
yeah, so the ones that eat our plants, us humans might call them pests because they eat plants. So do you know what type of animals? Can you think of any that will eat the leaves of plants, or the trunks, or the aphids?
Stick insects.
Stick insects, maybe. I don't know what they eat.
What about spiders?
Do they?
Maybe
Okay.
spiders.
Yeah, what do spiders eat?
Other insects.
Yeah, other insects. So,
Do they only eat insects or do they eat plants as well?
oh, I don't think they eat plants. I'm not a spider expert, but I think they only eat other animals. Yeah, they eat mutton, probably, hopefully. Yeah. So you got the things that eat the plants, and you got the things that eat the things that eat the plants, and then you've got the things that eat the things that eat, etc., etc. It's kind of
fertilize the garden too.
Yeah. How does that work? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they poop.
Yeah.
Or they die.
Both.
They die.
Yeah. So insects of all forms are great cyclers of nutrients. I can't remember, and there's a lot of animals that do that in sort of the wild, but they're a really important part of this kind of cycle of growth and decay that's so important for a healthy ecosystem. And it's the same in your veggie garden, it's the same anywhere. So with all our diverse planting, what are we aiming for? And I think some of you guys mentioned diversity. It's a very resilient ecosystem, and it's kind of manages itself in terms of the populations of different animals as well. So like over here, no one's out there keeping track of what we call pests and things. So that's what we can achieve in this garden. You shouldn't get massive problems with pests because we got all the predators living in there as well. So the pests are an essential, the animals that eat the plants are an essential part of this ecosystem to create diversity and habitat because they're food for other things. If you want to create habitat in your veggie garden, is that possible?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Flowers.
Yeah, lots of flowers. Flowers are a really important part of it. Keep it messy. Yeah, messy. Yeah, leave some of the pests. Or leave all of the pests, depending on how much you want to eat.
Yeah,
And plant a variety.
Yeah, plant a variety. So again, diversity even in the veggie garden. So these principles apply across the board, whatever you're trying to grow. So we got different plants, and someone mentioned flowers. Flowers are a really important part of a diverse, healthy habitat ecosystem. Why? What do flowers do?
They bring bees.
How?
That affects them with the smell.
Yeah, the smell, and what else?
The colors.
The colors and
Pollens.
the nectar and the pollen. Yeah, so it's a food source. So the plant goes to a lot of effort. It takes a lot of energy to make a flower. Flower's like a big neon sign. Wah, 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 come and I've got food. Come and get it. You know. So a lot of the insects that come and live in the garden rely on that food that the flowers provide. So if you have a garden that has no flowers for 6 months of the year, what might happen? Yeah, maybe you have to get, it comes back, it's more work if you want to get zucchinis. What about the critters that rely on the flowers for food? What happens to them? Yeah, they'll probably go away or they'll die or whatever. So one strategy with a habitat garden, if you're focused on that, is see if you can get something that flowers all year, or a few things at least that flower all year. So, you know, I know in this part of the world, our wattles flower in winter, often in the cool season. So they're a really good addition. You know, plenty of things flower in spring, plenty of things flower in summer. But if you can find things that flower all year, then you're laughing. Okay.
So what flowers all year?
Well, there's not many things that flower all year by themselves. So that's where the diversity comes in again. And that's where if you're designing a system like this or choosing what to put in, you know, see if you can figure out if you can get a constant year-round flowering of something, then that's a good strategy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Different plants.
Adding up to get the combined effect.
Thank you. Yes. Sorry. Thank you. It's the beauty of the group. I don't know if you've noticed this thing. What do you reckon is going? What is this? Yeah. Yes.
Tiny birds.
Yeah. So this is a bird bath. The idea was that it's got this cage around it. Because around here, I think I mentioned the little birds are really suffering in Sydney. So we're trying to kind of give them a bit of a head start or a bit of a safe place. I don't know if this works. I don't know if anyone's noticed anything. I think people have noticed noisy miners in here, which is not exactly what we're after. But the idea is that the cage makes the little birds feel safe, so they can come and have a bit of a bath and a drink and then get out of there.
You probably need to grow a creeper up it.
Yeah, maybe a bit more protection. Yeah.
How's the water get in there? Is that rainwater?
Yeah, it's got a pipe coming from our rainwater tank.
Okay.
I think it seems like it fills up.
Yeah, when that taps on it.
Yeah, it just tops up. What about the rest of the structure? What do you think that this rocky Gabion thing's all about?
Yes, lizards can live in there.
Lizards and frogs.
Yeah, so it's another thing that you want to think about. So we've kind of covered plants a bit, but other things that you can put in your garden. Yeah, rocks. So hiding places for lizards and things to hide. So what you're really trying to do is provide food, shelter, protection, and somewhere to have the next generation, somewhere to make babies and protect the offspring. So something like this could be useful for something to hide in, so it doesn't get eaten by something else. This is a really technical way of putting it.
So if a residential home garden is too manicured and tidy, it's not very good for the habitat.
Well, generally, yeah. I mean, you can have quite a well manicured garden with a nice hedge, and hedges can be great hiding spots for little birds. So yes and no, but yeah, generally a messy, diverse, garden with dead stuff and things lying around is actually better habitat. But you can achieve habitat with a more manicured garden. But the idea with this is there's lots of hiding spots, probably for spiders. I won't put my hand in there, but spiders, lizards, frogs, things can hide in there and be protected. And I guess if there's things hiding in there to be protected, maybe there's other things that can go in there and eat the things that are hiding there. So it's all very complex. So we move down here. So again, we've got, if you were to look in here, what's your take on it in terms of habitat value?
Mostly just lamandra, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit less diverse than we've got down there. But the guys who are working in this section are adding new plants to the mix. So they're slowly transforming, which is fairly much a lamandra dominated landscape with more diversity and more types of plants mixed in. Lamandra is actually really good habitat. Frogs love it. You know, they get down in there, and I guess lots of things love it. We've got blue-tongue lizards that live in this section because I think you're never going to catch a blue-tongue. Probably snakes as well. But yeah, not so much diversity. We've got the upper canopy with the trees and the lower story, but the mid story is a little bit missing. So it's coming with time. So more rocks, slightly bigger rocks. This might be called something like they call it a lizard lounge. So it could be a place where what do lizards need? Sun, yeah. So they love sunbaking. They need to warm up their blood, so they can have a few rocks lying around or a bit of concrete or anything. I don't know if there's anything living in there, but it could be good lizard habitat. So piles of rocks. What else can a lizard hide in? Anyone seen lizards living in anything else? They love like terracotta pipes. Blue tongues love terracotta pipes. We got a massive, we've got quite a healthy population of blue tongue lizards up in our food forest, and they just live under. We've got some bridges that are just this high off the ground, and the blue tongues just live under there and come out and feast on snails and things that are eating our plants. So just somewhere to hide is really good. What's going on here? What's this for? Yeah, so this is our, well, it's a pond, and it's great habitat potentially for frogs. What else would come to a pond? Birds. Yeah, birds get in there and flap around. Yeah, maybe. We could put some little fish. We'd probably need to put them in this context. Yeah. Yeah.
The lizards drink, they must drink.
Yeah, lizards.
Children?
Hey?
Children and dogs.
Children and dogs, yes. I've seen bees drinking from this pond. So you get things like dragonflies, all sorts of things will come to a pond, and lots of them. So if you've got space for a pond and you're interested in habitat and biodiversity, put in a pond. It makes a massive difference to the life that you get in the garden. So, pretty easy to look after. If you have water plants in there, diversity again of water plants, the water plants can help keep the water clean and oxygenated. So you don't need a filter or a pump if you've got enough plants in there. You can put some little native fish, which there's certain species that will coexist with frogs and other critters, but they will eat the mozzie larvae, so they're really useful. So various times we've had lots of tadpoles in here and lots of frog eggs and all sorts of things going on. So pond, definitely, if you can fit a pond into your garden, do it. Has anyone noticed, yeah, and you've probably noticed because you mentioned, oh no, I think Judy mentioned, what happens to this pond fairly regularly?
It dries out.
It does dry out. We could probably stop that from happening. What else happens?
People coming, children, dogs.
Yeah, so probably on a daily basis, I would imagine. We have dogs and probably kids, it's fine, sort of swimming in here and jumping around. Now there's a what does that do? Any idea? What could that do to our ecosystem?
Disturb it.
Yeah, and it's yeah. So I think it's
Get sediment in the water for a while and lose oxygen. Though I suppose they're stomping around will turn it a bit and get oxygen in. But
Maybe, yeah. It's what they call so there's a thing in a disturbance. So it's a disturbance event, and generally high disturbance. So a disturbance is when something gets disturbed, right? So if it's happening regularly, it's often quite detrimental to the balance of that system. So there's no, I haven't seen frogs and tadpoles in here for a long time. They do come to it. They like this little ecosystem, but that regular disturbance stops it having habitat value for frogs anyway. Probably other things living in there that don't worry about it. So it's a key concept in your ecosystem management or your habitat management is to try and minimize disturbance as much as possible. And it's like our soil management principles. You know, don't dig the soil. It's the same. Don't dig your pond. You know what I mean? So, if you were to look out there in the middle of the paddock, what happens out there in terms of disturbance events? People walking through it, across it, dogs running across it, lawnmowers going across it. So it's a pretty high disturbance environment. Is there much diversity out there? No. Is there much habitat? Possibly not. Probably not. It's high disturbance. Whereas on this side of the fence, it's totally the opposite and very low disturbance, high diversity, and it's full of life, full of habitat, lots of diversity. So what else? Let me check my list of other things that we can put in the garden. I'm sure I've forgotten some. Has anyone got any idea? Other things that you can include in your garden?
Logs and things.
Yeah, logs, stones, covered mulch, plants, water, mess. I've got mess. Layers.
I guess over here, you know, there's a branch that's broken off just behind this eucalyptus. It's a bit hard to see.
Yeah.
But you know, people were asking earlier, do we put that on the compost heap, or you know, they decided to leave it there. It adds to that. Habitat value provides extra protection and places to sneak in and around.
Yeah. Yeah.
But otherwise, generally, if you have this approach, you'd throw away, wouldn't you?
Tidy it up.
Tidy it up.
We love tidying up. It's kind of normal. It's what we do. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Messy's okay. If you want a habitat, it's probably quite good. I remember I used to look after a garden, like I was in a nursing home. It's quite a big area, and we had a section up the back, and it's just go around pruning and mowing, and we just chuck everything up there on a big pile, and it was sticks and all sorts of stuff. And so this was a while ago, and there was a drought on for a long. It was one of those bad droughts that we had in the 2000s, and you know, everywhere was looking really brown, sort of dead and crackly, except where this big pile of stuff was green, like the plants around it were green and lush, and it had blue tongue lizards. It had all, you know, there's so much life just from piling stuff. So it's pretty easy to create an habitat. It's really all it takes is pile stuff up. What's the diversity? How are we going for time? People. 20 past. Okay.
We can finish.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're the key things. So we'll do a quick recap. So in terms of the things that you can plonk or put or plonk, place carefully and majestically in the landscape, what are some of the things? Let's just smash them out. Mulch. Rocks. Pond. Yeah.
And if you're listening to us now on Facebook, feel free to type something in there. You know, if you've got a question, we're just about to wrap up this part of it. If you've got a question before we finish, you can type it into the comments.
Lots of plants, diversity of plants.
Yeah.
Maybe a beehive.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We've got some native beehives around here and some European beehives as well. You can bring in homes for the animals. And what about in terms of looking after a garden for habitat? What are some of the things we might do or might not do?
Provide layers.
But leave them alone. Maybe just go. Leave them less.
You pull out some weeds, or
Oh, you could, yeah. I guess if you know, yeah, sure. Why not? Actually, another, yeah.
Only if the weeds are stopping the plants that you want to grow. Weeds themselves,
Yeah, I remember hearing a story about, I think it was Germany. Don't quote me on this, but they had old industrial, big areas of, like here, old areas of industrial land in the city, and they purposefully just left it alone. So there was no one using it. It was just basically locked off, and they just left it. And several years later, they did some studies. So they were doing measurements of biodiversity and the animals that were living there, and doing a full ecosystem study. And they found after a few years that those places that they just locked people out of and just left alone to whatever, just naturalized with weeds or whatever, they were the most biodiverse, rich ecosystems in the country. That's all you need to do.
even Chernobyl's growing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So we got to get out of the way.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. In that case, yeah, that's what happened.
Well, that's it for this week. Thank you for all of you that came on Facebook. And next week we'll be on cleaning, water and cleaning. So embodied water and also, sustainable methods of cleaning. So we'll be taking home a cleaning bottle, a sprayer of stuff. And, but otherwise, thank you to Steve. Cheers. See you.
it's cleaning in the house.
Yeah.
Not in the garden because we have messy gardens.
Well, I like to hear just leave the inside.